Capitol Hill Ocean Day in history, as I say. And we've had over 400 people for the last 3 days in participating in the Blue Vision Summit to try and turn the tide for ocean policy and see the good policy that the President's put on paper, see it implemented in the waters, in our waters. And today it's going to be, we've got over 70 meetings, which is also historic for us, with staff, with folks who can have impact and make it clear to them that protecting the oceans is not only about protecting life, it's also about protecting their positions of power, because their constituents are concerned and want them to act the right way, do the right thing for our public seas. It's, as I say, we're going to have, some 200 of us around the Capitol. Keep looking for the big buttons, the big stickers. Over 70 meetings. What's thrilling to me is that in the first two summits in 2004 and 2009, a lot of people said, well, but if I'm an educator or a nonprofit, can I participate as a citizen? Can I go up on the Hill? And even 2 years ago, when everybody was very excited with the new administration, we only got about 25% of our people up here. Right now, with some 200 people participating today, it's over 50% of the summiteers, realizing that, if you want to save your coastline, if you want clean waters, if you want abundant waters and wildlife, if you love sea otters and sea stars, you got to love the political process. You got to participate and be part of the democratic process to make change. And we're here to make our public seas a public policy issue. And if it's embarrassing if some people don't want to move forward till after the next election cycle, if other people don't get it, if some of them say that it doesn't make sense to them, we're gonna show them that it makes lots of common sense to protect what belongs to all of us. And that's why we're here today, and that's why I'm so proud, and that's why, even though we have some Peter Benchley ocean champions and ocean winners with us, we're all award winners just by participating. So thanks, and Charlotte will come up, and Charlotte Vick, and start to give us some of the details. You all have your papers with you, and if you don't know where you're going, your delegation, it's wild. We've got 11 delegations, 11. Thank you all the regional organizers from New York to California and the Pacific Islands and Colorado, where, as you say, conveniently located between two oceans, and making the point that they're all ocean states. That's the other thing we have to tell the people we meet with today. We're all ocean states. It's all, goes off the ocean into the clouds, rains down, gives us the, feeds our rivers and our farms, and provides us the food, and follows gravity back down through the mountains, watersheds, rivers, into our great estuaries, out across our seamounts, coral reefs, out to the deep ocean, and down to the abyssal depths, where 40 years later it surfaces all again, and just the vapor that makes the circle of life, and the circle of life somehow ends up on Capitol Hill today. So we'll march it forward. Thanks.
To follow up on what Dave was saying, I think probably if there's one point that you can get across is that everybody has to breathe, and everyone's entitled to clean air and clean water. The little tiny phytoplankton in the ocean in the first few inches creates so much of the oxygen that we breathe that you could mow down. The first time I met Sylvia Earle, she was telling me this in the car, and she had just come from a meeting, this was about 2000, where they were talking about how they had figured out how much oxygen was coming from the ocean. And she was so tired, she had been up for about 48 hours straight, and she kept falling asleep. But she was saying, we just found out about these little microbes in the ocean, and they're doing this, and then she'd fall asleep, and I'd be waiting for 5 or 6 minutes, like, and then so she would come back with, and she would pick it up. 5 minutes later, she would start the same sentence exactly where she left off when she fell asleep. And we really have to do this thing to take care of that, and we could mow down every rainforest on the planet. It won't be as bad as hurting the ocean. And so it just about, I was riveted, but I couldn't believe that anyone could do what she was doing, fall asleep and then pick up exactly where she had left off. But that is a very important point that you can use it as a talking point, that the ocean is about clean air, clean water, and today is about making friends and making contacts, people we can work with over the next few years. So please be kind, be gentle, but be firm and passionate. You don't have to be argumentative to be passionate. So that's our goal today, is to make friends. And I would say, if you're not get through your details. If you have time, be sure to be watching. They're watching the clock, and if they start looking at the clock, you know you don't have any time left. So they're very time sensitive up here. So take a look, be careful, make friends, and think about this being the first step in many steps that we are going to make. Probe. Find out where the soft spots are, where the hard spots are. Gather intelligence, and then when we get back at the end of the day, we can start making plans for what our strategies are going to be. We can't win if we don't talk to the opposition. I have to say, after all the things that have been said about Republicans, I've been a Republican most of my life. I was born in Texas when it was a Democratic state. So I left, and I've been gone a long time, and things have changed a lot. But there was a time when Republicans were more the environmental party than the Democrats. So I think we just need to remind people that environmental issues in the ocean is about everybody. It isn't partisan. Don't let it become partisan if you possibly can. It's not about that. Everyone loves the ocean. Republicans like to go to the beach. Republicans like to breathe. So be very careful with how you do that if you possibly can. And we do need their support over the next few years. Yeah.
Something about what you said, because
yeah.
I mentioned last night to several people who weren't at the conference about what you just said about the breathing issue and how it comes from the ocean. And they all asked me the same question, and I couldn't answer it. And so I thought maybe the legislators would ask the same question, and that is, are we already seeing effects on land are we seeing a decrease in oxygen on land? And if not, when do we predict that the problems in the ocean are going to affect our oxygen levels on land?
I don't think that anybody has a definitive answer on that. I think there's a lot of discussion about how ocean acidification might affect things like prochlorococcus and various other, things that are in the ocean that are involved in that process.
We're not seeing a reduced oxygen level yet on land. We don't know.
Who's to say? I mean, right now, as far as I know, it's still producing well. But, how long will that last? We're playing with a chemical mix that we don't know a lot about, and the coral reefs are involved in all of those things. And we're not the only oxygen breathe. Mammals breathe, birds breathe, fish breathe. Everybody breathes. So, anyway, just try to make your best case if you possibly can. And any other questions? One thing I wanted to tell you, it would be very helpful if you go downstairs to the Dirksen basement and buy the book that has the entire structure in it, all of the office numbers, all of the names of the different committees, and etc. It might be useful to have that as a reference guide. And I'm planning to do the same thing. I don't have a current copy, so that's the first place I'm going after this. And Mike is next, I think. Oh, no, Will's next.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just going to interject. Just to follow up, Charlotte's remarks were excellent. One of the things that we're here on is, in addition to trying to convey what we're all about, is a listening session. Unfortunately, I won't be there this afternoon for the wrap-up at the Mott House, but we're looking to get your feedback about all the information we learned today as well. This is sort of an unprecedented number of ears that are on the Hill for our topic area all on one day. So please be listening and taking great notes and conveying that information back this afternoon. Sarah, can you just give a quick note about logistics, about where you'll be and what we can do if people get confused or need more materials?
Okay. So from the morning, from about 10 to 11:30 or so, I'm going to be at the Hart Senate cafeteria. So the Hart building is connected to Dirksen. It's the same building, just on the other side. And then during the afternoon, I'll be in the Longworth building, which is on the house side, in their cafeteria. The table will be hard to miss, but if you do miss me, feel free to give me a call. And that number, is everyone ready? Okay, so you take it down. Is 281. All right. 7209. 281-770-7209. Sarah.
And now for our next morning expert, Mike Conathan, this is almost his stomping grounds. He's sort of one committee away. This is the Environment and Public Works Committee. He was here at the Commerce Committee up until recently and is now off at CAP. So he'll explain what it's like to be on the receiving end of your office visit.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming out. This is a tremendous turnout. I mean, it's really fantastic. As David said, the biggest turnout for Capitol Hill Oceans Day. And I noticed that the minute I walked in the building, the first person I saw in the lobby there of the Hart Building was somebody with one of these big round stickers on. So people are going to notice that, and it's important that you sort of leave the sticker there because you do sort of pick up on that as you walk through the halls and as you're working here. You sort of see who the groups are that are on the Hill that day, and you kind of absorb it, and you get a sense of what people are starting to talk about. So that's a really important piece. One logistical point, Sarah, you mentioned the Hart Cafeteria. I think it's actually in Dirksen, unless you're going to be at the coffee shop.
Yeah,
that's in Hart. Okay, so that's if you're looking for that and you're asking somebody where it is, that will be referred to as the Senate Chef, not the Senate cafeteria. Not because of the quality of the food. Just I don't know why they've done it that way, but so anyway, that's just one logistical note. And I really like what Charlotte was talking about as well with the bipartisanship issue of oceans. Working on the Commerce Committee, and just for your perspective, while you might think that the Committee on Environment and Public Works would be the committee that would have jurisdiction over ocean issues, it's actually the Commerce Committee, and I believe we'll hear from a Commerce Committee staffer. There's my friend Catherine Hazelwood over there, who's going to talk to you in a few minutes, but I won't take too much of what she's going to talk about, but the Commerce Committee is actually the committee with jurisdiction over all ocean issues because NOAA is placed in the Department of Commerce. So that becomes by a Republican, which is going to bring me to my next point, which is that I worked for Senator Snowe for 5 years, who's a Republican from Maine. And ocean issues, I believe, are perhaps the most bipartisan of issues that we deal with on the Hill. The Commerce Committee, when I started, was run by Senator Stevens and Senator Inouye. Senator Stevens, a Republican from Alaska, Senator Inouye, the Democrat from Hawaii. And they developed a culture on the Commerce Committee that was it was the epitome of collaboration. They're both sort of old school Senate members. They were all about working together to form common goals. Something that you don't see a lot in Washington today, as maybe you've heard from keeping an eye on the news and everything that's going on. But Commerce Committee really still operates that way. Catherine works for Senator Rockefeller and now for Senator Begich, who's the chairman of the subcommittee on oceans, atmosphere, fisheries, and Coast Guard, which Senator Snowe was the Republican leader on. And we worked extremely well together across the aisle, and I can only assume that goes on. Yeah, thank you. So when I came up here, I came up as a Sea Grant Fellow in 2006, and when I came to do my placement process and talk to all the offices, I was, I came to DC with the one idea that there was no way I was going to work for a Republican. That was just off the table. And I got here and I went through all the meetings and immediately, had a great relationship with the folks in Senator Snow's office. I ended up there, and I haven't regretted it for a day since. So really keep that in mind. This is not a partisan issue. This is really about the ocean, and as Charlotte said, everybody obviously loves the ocean. That's why we're all here. So just a couple of quick things on your meetings today. I know it's probably been said, but just to kind of recap and reiterate, the most important thing that you're doing here is not this meeting today. The most important thing that you're doing here is building relationships with these offices and making yourself a resource to them so that when the staffers are dealing with these issues and when they come back to these issues, they think, if their boss needs to give a speech on something, or they need to know how their boss should vote on a bill, or they're going to a hearing and they need to ask questions, who are they going to call to get the information that they need? Most staffers on the Hill are not exclusively focused on ocean issues. Those of us who worked on the Commerce Committee were fortunate enough to be able to do that, but the folks you're going to talk to in personal offices are going to have an extremely broad suite of issues that they deal with. So they have a very difficult job, which is to become experts in a million different topics. And the way they do that is by using people like you, the people that they can pick up the phone and call and say, what do I need to know about this issue? What do the people in my state think? What do the people in my district think? and what are the key points that I need to let my boss know about. And so that is your job, is to create that relationship with those staffers so that when they have a question, they will pick up the phone and they will call you and they will get your perspective. And that's how you really will participate in this process long term. So in these meetings today, you also want to, as Charlotte was alluding to, find the places where there is some room. You may not be meeting with a member who is going to agree with you on all issues. You probably won't. If you're going to talk to Senator Vitter, he's probably not going to agree with your perspective on offshore drilling. So maybe, you can go in and certainly state your opinion, be, as they said, be forceful about your opinion, but don't be argumentative about your opinion on a fight that you're not going to win with them on. If you want to go to talk to Senator Vitter about ocean issues, he's been fantastic on harmful algal blooms and hypoxia. Talk to them about that one and what you can do to help on that issue. So find those areas where that person is actually going to be responsive, and then you build that relationship, and then later, as we start to talk about some broader issues, that's when you can really get in and make a difference, and because you have that relationship with the office and with the individuals, that's where you can be. The other thing I will say, and last point, is that anything you can do to offer to make a staffer's job easier is the best way that you can become friends with them. Anything that you can do to try to do some of their work for them. It's important to note that senators and representatives don't exclusively have power based on their vote. They have tremendous relationships with agencies. They have tremendous relationships with others of their colleagues. Some of the best ways that they make a difference are with sending letters to their colleagues, sending letters to agencies, suggesting policy directives. And so if you can offer to write one of those letters, write a first draft of that letter, send it to that staffer and say, I really want you to send this letter to NOAA, asking for more funding for fisheries science, more funding for hypoxia research, whatever the issue is. If they can get that letter out there, get a couple of their colleagues on it, that's a strong statement to the administration. So it's not just about a vote, and these are ways that you can actually put together something to deliver to them in the future that they can take away, and you've done half their job for them. And that is what makes you their friend. So that's your goal. Anything you can do. If you have further questions for me, I'll be around this morning. I actually have to get back to my office for a bit for the rest of the day, but I'll be here and happy to talk further. So thanks very much, and thank you so much for being here. It's really important to see
But, what other point on logistics on what we're trying to accomplish today? You're meeting with staff, but Catherine, you would know this. Are we still on for votes tonight? Was there still theoretically votes this evening, or? I know it was up in the air, but in theory, folks are traveling back to be back for what could be 6 o'clock votes tonight. So when you meet with the staff, invite the members to come to the Mott House, to actually come by, give a few remarks, join us in the celebration, either do something formal or just to casually be there. We have a leave behind letter that David has authored, which is another way that they can connect back to you. If hopefully they'll have your personal contact information, but if they ever lose it, David will source them back to you for future questions. And there's actually an invitation as well to leave behind referencing the Mott House itself. So, but I'd like to introduce Catherine Hazelwood. She is a current staff now here at the Commerce Committee and on the other side of the aisle. So she'll give you a perspective on what's happening right now in the committee, things that are viable for the 112th Congress, and what we can do to help each other.